The champagne fountain sparkled under the crystal chandelier as I stepped into Margaret's anniversary party. I clutched a simple white envelope in my sweating hands. 30 years of marriage deserved celebration, and I had saved for months to afford what was inside. My heart pounded as I approached the gift table, hoping to slip it quietly among the expensive boxes wrapped in silk ribbons. "Oh, sweetie, no need to bring a gift." Margaret's voice rang out across the room. She laughed loudly, her diamond necklace catching the light. "We know you can't afford anything nice." The room erupted in chuckles. My cheeks burned hot with humiliation. Guests turned to stare, their eyes sliding over my modest dress. I froze, the envelope suddenly feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My husband Tom stood beside his mother, examining his wine glass like it held the secrets of the universe. His silence cut deeper than Margaret's insult. I forced my lips into a smile, though my hands trembled. "Actually, I brought something special," I said softly. I walked forward and placed the envelope directly into Margaret's manicured hands. Her eyebrows rose in surprise. Around us, conversations quieted. The music seemed to dim. Margaret's fingers slid under the envelope's seal. Her smile was patronizing, the kind you give a child presenting a crayon drawing. She expected a cheap card, maybe a coupon for a free dinner. The guests leaned in, curiosity replacing their earlier amusement. She pulled out the papers inside. Her smile flickered, then faded completely. The color drained from her face as she read the reservation confirmation. Her mouth opened, then closed. She read it again, as if the words might change. "This is for the Grand Belmont Hotel," she whispered. Her voice cracked slightly. "2 nights in the honeymoon suite?" The room went silent. Someone's fork clinked against a plate. Margaret looked up at me sharply, her eyes no longer mocking, but suspicious. The Grand Belmont was where she and Tom's father had honeymooned 30 years ago. It was also the most expensive hotel in the state, with rooms starting at $2,000 per night. "You couldn't have paid for this," Margaret said. Her voice was quiet now, dangerous. "Where did you get the money?" I met her stare without flinching. My smile never wavered. "Happy anniversary, Margaret," I said simply. Then I turned and walked toward the buffet table, feeling 50 pairs of eyes burning into my back. I was reaching for a plate when Margaret's hand gripped my elbow. Her perfectly painted nails dug into my skin. She pulled me into the corner near the kitchen door, away from curious ears. Her face was close to mine, and I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with champagne. "I know Tom didn't pay for that," she hissed. Her voice dripped with venom. "I tell him everything about your finances. So whose money did you use? Did you borrow it? Go into debt?" My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that I had worked overtime for 3 months, that I had skipped lunches and sold my grandmother's bracelet. Instead, I swallowed my rage and said nothing. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "You are trying to embarrass me," Margaret continued, her eyes narrowed, "making yourself look generous when everyone knows the truth about you." I pulled my arm free and walked away. My hand shook as I set down my empty plate. Behind me, I heard Margaret's heels clicking as she returned to her guests. Within minutes, a whisper began spreading through the party like poison. "Did you hear? Emily's trying to show off with borrowed money." Later that night, I confronted Tom in our bedroom. He was loosening his tie, humming the song from the party. My anger had been building for hours, a pressure cooker ready to explode. "You told your mother about our finances," I said. It wasn't a question. Tom's face went pale, then red. "She's my mother, Emily. She worries about us." "She worries about controlling us," I shot back. "You gave her ammunition to humiliate me." He sighed heavily, like I was the one being unreasonable. "She didn't mean it that way. You're too sensitive. Mom was just joking around." Those words hit me like a slap. I stared at this man I had married 5 years ago, wondering when he had become a stranger. When had his mother's approval become more important than his wife's dignity? She wasn't joking, Tom, and you know it. He turned away, ending the conversation the way he always did, by pretending the problem didn't exist. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while Tom snored beside me. Something had broken inside me at that party, and I knew it couldn't be fixed. The next morning, I started keeping receipts for everything. Every purchase, every bill, every dollar that moved through our accounts. I wasn't sure why yet, but instinct told me I would need proof. 3 days after the anniversary party, I sat alone in our home office. Tom was working late, or so he claimed. The house felt too quiet. My laptop screen glowed in the darkness as I scrolled through my email, looking for something I had buried months ago. There it was, the job offer from Harrison International. They wanted me to manage their overseas marketing division in London. The salary was double what I made now. The opportunity was everything I had dreamed of. But when the offer came, Tom had looked at me with puppy dog eyes. "We can't leave," he had said. "My mother's getting older. She needs family nearby." So I had declined. For family. For a woman who thought I wasn't good enough to breathe the same air as her son. My cursor hovered over the old email thread. The hiring manager had said to reach out if I ever changed my mind. My heart pounded as I clicked reply. My fingers moved across the keyboard before doubt could stop me. "Dear Mr. Harrison, I hope this opportunity is still available. My circumstances have changed, and I would love to discuss the position further." I hit send before I could think twice. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The reply came within 48 hours. They still wanted me, but the position wouldn't start for 6 months. That gave me time. Time to plan, time to save. Time to build something Margaret could never take away from me. I started freelancing in the evenings after Tom went to bed. Small marketing projects, website designs, social media campaigns. The work was easy, and the money added up quickly. I opened a separate bank account that Tom didn't know about. Every dollar I earned went straight into it. Every deposit became a promise to myself. I would never be at their mercy again. I would never stand in a room of people while someone mocked my worth. The account balance grew slowly but steadily. $500, $1,000, $2,000. Tom noticed nothing. He was too busy having phone conversations with his mother every evening, always behind closed doors. Sometimes I heard him laugh at something she said. Each laugh felt like another small betrayal. Then one morning, my phone buzzed with a text notification. It was from Margaret, but the message clearly wasn't meant for me. She's lucky Tom pities her. Otherwise, he would have traded up years ago. My hands went numb. The phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the counter. She had sent it to me by accident. Margaret never apologized for the text. She never even acknowledged it. When I mentioned it to Tom, he sighed that familiar, exhausted sigh. "She didn't mean it like that. You're twisting her words." But I wasn't twisting anything. The words were clear. Tom's mother thought I was beneath her son, and worse, Tom agreed. His defense of her confirmed everything I needed to know. 2 weeks later, Margaret announced a family reunion at her estate. "To celebrate family success," she said in the group text. The message included photos of her sprawling house, the manicured gardens, the pool that sparkled like a jewel. Tom was excited. "It'll be nice to see everyone," he said, already planning what to wear. I smiled and agreed to come, but this time I had my own plans. This time I would bring a gift nobody would forget. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I was done being invisible. The next morning, I called a real estate agent. I had questions about property values and how quickly houses could sell. She was helpful and professional. She didn't ask why I needed to know. When I hung up, I felt lighter, somehow. like I was finally taking control of a story that had been written without my permission. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work reviewing a client presentation when an unknown number flashed across my screen. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Hello, is this Emily Patterson?" A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "Yes, speaking." "This is Amanda from Lux Department Store. I'm calling to verify a credit application submitted in your name." My blood ran cold. I didn't apply for any credit. There was a pause. Papers rustled in the background. "The application was submitted online 3 days ago. The billing address matches yours. The applicant requested a credit line of $15,000. My hand started shaking. "Can you tell me what email address was used?" She read it off. It was close to mine, just one letter different. Close enough that someone might miss it. Close enough to fool a busy store employee. But I knew exactly who had done this. "This is identity fraud," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I need you to flag this application and send me copies of everything." After I hung up, I sat in my car and screamed, just screamed until my throat hurt. Then I dried my eyes, took screenshots of the store's email, and saved everything to my secret cloud folder. I didn't confront Margaret, not yet. Instead, I waited and watched. Tom started coming home later and later. When he did arrive, he was distant, distracted. His phone was always in his hand, always face down on the table. He drank more wine with dinner, sometimes finishing a whole bottle himself. Margaret's voice became a constant presence in our home through speakerphone calls. She offered Tom advice about work, about money, about our marriage. He listened to her like she was some kind of prophet. I started to feel like a ghost in my own house. One evening, I noticed Tom's laptop open on the couch. He was in the shower, and I told myself I was just closing it to save battery. But curiosity pulled my fingers to the keyboard. His email was still logged in. My heart sank as I scrolled through his sent folder. Email after email forwarded to his mother. My doctor's appointments, my work complaints about difficult clients, even the funny messages I sent him during the day, shared with Margaret for her entertainment and judgment. He had been reporting my entire life to her, every private thought, every vulnerable moment, every small detail of my existence. I was an open book that I never knew I was writing. I took pictures of the emails with my phone, added them to my growing collection of evidence. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, feeling more alone than I had ever. The bank notification arrived at 2 a.m. I was lying in bed, unable to sleep, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. The alert made my stomach drop. $20,000 withdrawn from joint savings account. I sat up so fast the room spun. Tom was snoring beside me, completely at peace. My hands fumbled with the banking app. The transaction was there, in black and white. $20,000 transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I shook Tom awake. He groaned and rolled over. "What's wrong?" "Where's the money?" I demanded, shoving the phone in his face. He squinted at the screen, then his face changed. Guilt flashed across his features before he could hide it. "Oh, that. I was going to tell you." "Tell me what, Tom?"
He sat up slowly, running his hand through his hair. "Mom needed it for an investment opportunity. It's going to double in 6 months, and then we'll get it all back plus profit." I stared at him like he had grown a second head. "You gave your mother $20,000 without asking me?" "It's not like that," he said quickly. "It's still our money, just temporarily somewhere else." But we both knew it wasn't temporary. We both knew that money was gone forever. Margaret had finally taken what she always believed was rightfully hers, Tom's loyalty and our savings. I got out of bed and walked to the living room. Tom followed, making excuses, but I wasn't listening anymore. "I hope she enjoys it," I said calmly, looking out our dark window. My reflection stared back at me, a stranger I was just beginning to meet. "It's her last gift from me." Tom sputtered behind me, trying to explain, to justify, to make me understand. But I understood perfectly. This marriage had 3 people in it. and I was the outsider. I had been from the beginning. The next morning, I made an appointment, not with a therapist or a marriage counselor, with a lawyer. His office was downtown, tucked between a coffee shop and a bookstore. The waiting room smelled like leather and old paper. I need to know about asset tracing, I told him once we were seated in his private office. If money was taken from a joint account without consent, can it be recovered? The lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named Mr. Davis, leaned back in his chair. Planning something? I smiled faintly. Just preparing. He asked questions. I answered honestly. He took notes, and I felt some of the weight lift from my shoulders. This was real now. I was building a path forward, one legal document at a time. As I stood to leave, his assistant, a young woman with kind eyes, touched my arm. She whispered so softly I almost missed it. "He's been here before. Your husband. About 3 months ago." My heart stopped. What? She glanced toward her boss's closed door. I shouldn't say more, but be careful. That evening, I installed a small audio recorder in our living room. I tucked it behind a picture frame on the bookshelf, invisible unless you were looking for it. The device was voice-activated and could record for 72 hours. I felt guilty for maybe 5 minutes. Then I remembered the forwarded emails, the stolen money, the public humiliation. My guilt evaporated like morning dew. 3 days later, I retrieved the recorder and plugged it into my laptop. I fast-forwarded through hours of silence and television noise. Then I heard voices. Tom's and Margaret's. I pressed play. "She'll never leave," Margaret's voice said, dripping with confidence. "Emily needs us. Where else would she go?" Tom laughed. Actually laughed. "You're right. She's got no spine. All that drama about the money, but she'll get over it. She always does. That's because she knows she married up. She should be grateful you chose her." Their laughter filled my headphones. I sat frozen, listening to the two people who were supposed to love me discuss me like I was a charity case, a burden they tolerated out of kindness. I saved the audio file, backed it up in 3 different places. Then I whispered to the empty room, "We'll see about that." I told Tom I was taking a work trip. He barely looked up from his phone. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. "Okay, have fun." That was it. No questions about where I was going or why, no concern about me traveling alone. He had already checked out of our marriage. He just didn't know I had too. The furnished apartment I rented was small but clean. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a living room with windows that actually let in sunlight. It was across town, far enough that I wouldn't accidentally run into Tom or his mother.
For the first time in years, I felt peaceful. The silence wasn't heavy with unspoken resentment. The walls didn't echo with Margaret's criticisms. I could breathe without wondering if I was doing it wrong. I set up my laptop and continued my freelance work. My secret account was growing nicely. The London job would start in 3 months. Everything was falling into place. Before I left, I had scheduled an email to send automatically. It contained the audio recording of Tom and Margaret's conversation. The recipient list included Tom's entire family, his coworkers, and several of Margaret's country club friends. The email was set to send in 2 weeks, but technology has a funny way of glitching. 3 days into my work trip, the email sent early. To everyone. My phone exploded with notifications. Texts, calls, voicemails. I watched them pile up while eating dinner in my peaceful apartment. I didn't answer any of them. Not yet. The audio clip spread like wildfire. People forwarded it, discussed it, picked it apart. Margaret's friends heard her cruel words about the daughter-in-law she pretended to love in public. Tom's coworkers heard him mock his wife behind her back. Within hours, Margaret's carefully constructed reputation was shredded. Screenshots of text conversations flooded social media. People she had known for decades turned their backs. Her church group removed her from the volunteer schedule. Tom's office was less forgiving. Professional reputation mattered in his industry. Laughing about deceiving your wife didn't play well with clients who valued integrity. He called me 17 times. I let every call go to voicemail. Finally, I listened to one message. His voice was frantic, furious. "How could you embarrass us like that? You've destroyed everything. My mother collapsed from the stress. This is your fault, Emily. Your fault." I saved the voicemail. Then I texted back a single sentence. "You did that yourselves." Then I blocked his number and poured myself a glass of wine. Peace had never tasted so sweet. Margaret's collapse made the local news. Prominent society woman hospitalized after family scandal. The article was sympathetic to her at first, painting her as the victim of a vindictive daughter-in-law. But then people who knew the truth started commenting, sharing their own stories of Margaret's cruelty, her cutting remarks, her need to control everyone around her. The narrative shifted quickly. Online forums picked up the story, Reddit threads analyzed the audio clip. People debated whether I had gone too far or not far enough. Some called me a hero, others called me petty. I didn't comment on any of it. I stayed silent and let the truth speak for itself. The tide of public opinion was turning. The gold-digging daughter-in-law was becoming the betrayed wife who fought back. One evening, I got an email from a journalist named Amanda Phillips. She worked for a magazine that focused on women's stories. Her message was kind, not pushy. "I'd love to hear your side of this story. No pressure, but I think your voice deserves to be heard." I stared at the email for a long time. Part of me wanted to stay invisible, to let this all blow over. But another part of me, the part that had been silenced for years, wanted to finally speak. I wrote back, "Let's talk." The interview took place in a quiet coffee shop. Amanda was in her 40s, with warm eyes and a recorder that she placed carefully on the table between us. She ordered us both coffee and waited until I was ready. I told her everything, not with anger or tears, but with calm clarity. I explained the years of subtle put-downs, the financial control, the public humiliation. I showed her evidence, the receipts I had saved, the documented timeline of Margaret's credit fraud attempt. "This isn't about revenge," I said carefully. "This is about showing people that silence isn't the same as acceptance. I stayed quiet for years, and it nearly destroyed me." Amanda took notes, asked thoughtful questions, and never once made me feel judged. When the interview ended, she squeezed my hand. "You're braver than you know." The article published 2 weeks later. It was fair, balanced, and honest. Amanda presented both sides, but let the facts speak for themselves. The response was overwhelming. My inbox flooded with messages from women sharing their own stories. Hundreds of them, all saying the same thing. "I thought I was alone. You gave me courage. Thank you." Margaret's family started fighting among themselves, some defending her, others admitting they had seen her cruelty for years. Tom's siblings stopped speaking to each other. The perfect family image crumbled completely. Tom showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday evening. I saw him through the peer-hole, looking smaller somehow, broken. He knocked softly, not demanding entry like he might have before. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. His eyes were red. His shirt was wrinkled. "Emily, please, we need to talk. We can fix this. Mom didn't mean to hurt you. She's in therapy now. She wants to apologize." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I remembered the laughter on that recording, his voice saying I had no spine. I walked to my kitchen table and picked up a printed photograph. I had been saving it for the right moment. I handed it to Tom without a word. The photo showed him at a downtown bar, his arm around a blonde woman I didn't recognize. They were laughing, leaning close. Too close. The timestamp was from 2 months ago. Tom's face went white. "That's not what it looks like." "It never is," I said quietly, "but it doesn't matter anymore." His eyes followed my gesture to the coffee table. The divorce papers sat there, already filled out, waiting only for signatures. "I'm fixing this already," I told him, "just not the way you want." Margaret tried to reclaim the money Tom had given her. She sent a legal letter claiming it was a gift freely given, therefore not subject to marital asset division. Her lawyer argued that I had no claim to it. My lawyer, Mr. Davis, smiled when he read her letter. "She just made a critical mistake," he said. He sent back documentation, bank statements showing the money came from a joint account, Tom's own emails admitting he took it without my consent, and most damaging, the evidence of Margaret's attempted credit fraud in my name. The judge reviewed everything and froze Margaret's assets pending a full investigation. She couldn't access her bank accounts, couldn't sell property, couldn't make large purchases. For the first time in her life, Margaret understood what it felt like to be powerless. Tom begged her lawyer to fix it, but there was nothing to fix. The law was clear. Margaret had received stolen marital assets and attempted identity fraud. Both were serious offenses. The divorce proceedings moved quickly after that. Tom didn't have the money to fight me, and his mother couldn't help him. I got the settlement I wanted. Fair, not greedy. Just what I had earned during our marriage. The house went on the market. I took my half of the proceeds and invested it in the business I had been building secretly during Aldo's late-night freelancing sessions. My company launched officially in February. It was small, just me and 2 contractors, but it was mine. I designed websites and marketing campaigns for small businesses. The work I had been doing in shadows now had a name and a logo. Freedom felt better than revenge ever could. Every client I signed, every invoice I sent, every dollar I earned was proof that Margaret had been wrong about me. I wasn't lucky to have married Tom. He had been lucky to have me, and he had been too blind to see it. 3 months later, an invitation arrived in my mailbox. Cream-colored paper, elegant script. Margaret's birthday dinner. I stared at it for a long time, debating whether to throw it away. Then curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what remained of the woman who had once looked down at me with such contempt. I RSVP'd yes. The dinner was at Margaret's house, smaller than her anniversary party had been. Many of her friends had distanced themselves after the scandal. The guest list was mostly family now, people obliged to attend. I wore a simple black dress and pearl earrings. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed revenge. Just quiet confidence. When I walked in, conversations stopped. Eyes followed me across the room. Margaret stood near the fireplace, older and thinner than I remembered. She glared at me but couldn't look away. Dinner was awkward and tense. People made small talk that felt forced. Tom sat at the far end of the table, avoiding my eyes. His new girlfriend, a quiet brunette who seemed uncomfortable, sat beside him. When dessert arrived, Margaret stood to make a toast. Her hands shook slightly as she raised her glass. "Thank you all for coming. Family is everything, even when times are difficult." Her eyes found mine across the table. The look was defiant, daring me to challenge her. Instead, I stood slowly. All eyes turned to me. I raised my glass with a calm smile. "To lessons," I said clearly. My voice carried across the silent room. The expensive kind. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small white envelope, just like the one from her anniversary party. I walked over and placed it gently in Margaret's hand. Her face went pale. The room held its breath as she opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a check. She stared at it, confused at first. Then understanding dawned and the color drained completely. The check was for $1. Below the amount in the memo line, I had written, "This is all I can afford." according to you." Whispers erupted around the table. Someone gasped. Tom stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Margaret's hand shook so hard the check fluttered to the ground. She looked at me with something I had never seen in her eyes before. Not anger, not contempt, but genuine shock. She had underestimated me completely. Tom stormed toward the door. His face was red with humiliation. "This is ridiculous, absolutely childish." But I noticed several family members hiding smiles behind their napkins. Margaret's sister actually laughed out loud before catching herself. Even Tom's brother looked impressed, his eyebrows raised in approval. Margaret remained frozen, unable to find words. For a woman who had spent her life controlling conversations, her silence was deafening. I turned to leave, my head high, my steps steady. Camera phones appeared, capturing the moment. I heard the soft clicks of photos being taken. This would be online within the hour, and I didn't care. As I reached the door, my phone buzzed in my purse. I glanced at it once I was outside in the cool evening air. It was a text from Amanda, the journalist. "Your story just hit 1 million views. You're trending. Congratulations." I smiled and put my phone away. The stars were bright overhead, and the night felt full of possibility. I drove home slowly, taking the long way through town, past the restaurant where Margaret had humiliated me, past the bank where Tom had stolen our savings, past the house we had shared, now owned by strangers. None of it hurt anymore. The wounds had healed, leaving scars that reminded me of my strength rather than my pain. When I reached my apartment, I made tea and sat by the window. My business inbox was full of new inquiries, people who had read the article and wanted to work with me. My calendar was booked for the next 3 months. The London job had worked out differently than planned. Harrison International offered me a remote position instead, allowing me to run my business while consulting for them. Best of both worlds. I would travel when I wanted, but keep my independence. My phone rang. It was my mother calling to check on me like she did every week. "How are you, sweetheart?" "I'm good, Mom. Really good." "I read the article," she said softly. "I'm proud of you. For leaving, for speaking up, for building something new." Tears surprised me. Happy ones. "Thank you." After we hung up, I opened my laptop and looked at my business dashboard. Revenue was up 40% from last month. 3 months later, I moved into a small house with a garden. It needed work, but it was mine. No Tom, no Margaret, no voices telling me I wasn't enough. Just quiet rooms waiting to be filled with better memories. I planted tomatoes and herbs in the back. My mother came over to help, wearing old jeans and a sun hat. We worked in comfortable silence, digging in the dirt, building something that would grow. "You seem lighter," she said, sitting back on her heels, "like you can breathe again." "I can," I agreed, for the first time in years. My business continued growing. I hired a full-time assistant, a young woman fresh out of college with big ideas and fierce energy. She reminded me of myself before I let someone else define my worth. I saw Tom once more at a coffee shop downtown. He was with his new girlfriend, looking tired. Our eyes met across the room. He started to stand, maybe to talk, maybe to apologize. I picked up my coffee and walked past him to the door. No drama, no confrontation, no explanation needed. He was a chapter I had closed, and I had no interest in rereading it. Outside, the autumn air was crisp and perfect. I had a client meeting in an hour and a dinner date with friends that evening. My life was full in ways it had never been before. That evening, my phone buzzed with a notification. Margaret had posted something on social media, her first post since the scandal. I almost didn't look, but curiosity won. It was a photo of her, alone in her garden, looking contemplative. The caption read, "Learning that pride comes before a fall. Grateful for hard lessons." The comments were mixed. Some people praised her growth, others called it too little, too late. I didn't comment either way. Amanda, the journalist, sent me a message. She's trying to rebuild her image. How do you feel about it? I thought about it for a moment before replying. I hope she learns, not for me, but for herself. Holding on to bitterness would just make me like her. That night, I slept peacefully. No nightmares about public humiliation, no anxiety about money, no fear about someone else controlling my life. Just deep, restful sleep. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window, birds sang in the trees outside. My cat, a rescue I had adopted last month, purred at the foot of my bed. I checked my bank account. The business had just received payment from 3 major clients. My savings account, the secret one I had started years ago, now held enough for a year of security. I made coffee and sat on my back porch, watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. My garden was growing nicely. The tomatoes were starting to ripen, the herbs smelled fresh and strong. My phone stayed inside, silent. I had learned to set boundaries with technology, with people, with everything that once demanded my attention without deserving it. Later that day, I would meet with a potential investor interested in helping me expand my business. Tomorrow, I would have lunch with my mother. Next week, I would take a vacation to the coast, alone, just because I wanted to. For the first time in years, I smiled not out of politeness or obligation, but from genuine peace. I had discovered something Margaret could never understand. True wealth wasn't in bank accounts or social status or perfect family images. It was in freedom, in choosing yourself when everyone else chose someone else, and building something from nothing and knowing it belonged to you alone. I thought about that white envelope, the one that started everything. Margaret thought it contained my attempt to prove my worth to her. She never understood that I was proving it to myself. Sometimes the best revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be, and then smiling anyway, not because they were wrong, but because their opinion stopped mattering. The sun climbed higher, my coffee grew cold, and I sat there, content in the life I had built from the ashes of the one I had left behind. Finally, I was home.